Tonight, fury on the Westgate, unions defiant after they triggered peak hour chaos, drivers left trapped for hours. 500,000 people on evacuation alert as Sydney faces crunch time in the flood crisis. Ukraine under siege, Kiev pounded from above. Russia claiming it's captured a major city. WA reopens after almost 700 days, but Mark McGowan won't rule out more border shutdowns. A grim petrol price prediction for drivers. And the AFL's pitch to lure fans back to the stands.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Rebecca Madden.
Good evening. The CFMEU is defiant and not apologising after it shut down the Westgate, causing peak hour chaos that left thousands of drivers trapped for hours. As this live shot from our helicopter shows, the bridge is operating normally tonight, but there are no guarantees that it won't be hit again by this dispute. We'll have the latest on that soon. There was one apology for drivers from the Premier.
Traffic brought to a crawl, then a standstill. Queues stretched for kilometres, all because the Westgate Tunnel project missed its 5 a.m. deadline to open the freeway.
It's bad, but not this bad. This is insane.
It's terrible. Back streets, full.
Normally it'd take me 25 minutes to get to where I have to go to. And so far I've been sitting an hour and a half.
The trip from Werribee to the city took close to 2 hours as traffic bottlenecked to squeeze into one inbound lane. 4 other lanes remained closed for the entire morning peak.
There's some things that went wrong overnight and that didn't happen, and I apologise for any inconvenience. That's deeply inconvenient for a large number of people.
This morning on the GPS it said it'd take an hour. It's been 2.5 hours.
It took me 30 minutes yesterday and now it's taking me a good hour and a bit.
The union dispute started overnight. CFMEU officials attended citing safety concerns, including concern over the use of a crane lifting concrete. WorkSafe arrived and gave the green light for work to continue, but that didn't resolve the stop work stalemate that spilled into morning.
We do an enormous amount of work across the program at night, and we always plan to hang back on time. Unfortunately, from time to time, sometimes we do have hiccups, unfortunately.
The CFMEU wouldn't talk on camera today, instead releasing a short statement accusing the project of putting public safety at risk. This project has already taken one life, and that is one too many. A reference to a fatality in 2018. A tunnel worker in his 50s was hit by a piece of equipment. Tunnelling on the project started yesterday. A boring machine is excavating the 4-kilometre outbound tunnel that will meet up with the Westgate Freeway in Altona North. That work due to continue for another 18 months.
And Emma O'Sullivan is at the Westgate. Emma, could this happen again?
Beck, unfortunately, the answer is yes. That doesn't mean it's likely, just that it's possible, as this dispute may not be resolved. Police had to attend the crane site last night about 2 a.m. That was after WorkSafe had attended. They left a short time later, saying the emerging industrial dispute was resolved without incident from their end. Of course, that didn't help commuters this morning. More nightly works are planned for this construction site throughout the year, and the entire Westgate Tunnel project is due to be completed sometime in 2025. But for now, tensions between the parties remain ongoing. Beck?
Indeed. Thank you very much, Emma. Well, hundreds of thousands of people are on alert in Sydney tonight, a brace for orders to evacuate as the city faces a critical period in the flood crisis. It's escaped a rain bomb but copped enough rain to cause a major emergency.
A family of 5 winched from their household island in Ballina. One of almost 200 rescues across the state. These remarkable helicopter pictures show Sydney as we've rarely seen it. The Hawkesbury Nepean floodplain in full flood, the outskirts of Sydney battered. So many homes now inundated, 3 lost on this street alone, none insured. West of the city, a 12-week-old baby and its mum dramatically saved from the flooded home, overrun by the Nepean River. It's not just humans needing help, these 4 pups now safe and dry.
They say it's a 1 in 100 flood. What happened? This is our 3rd one in 2 years.
There's no leaving man's best friend behind.
This is Diva.
Yeah?
there's no way you were leaving Diva behind?
Just upstairs in a crate with safe and sound. It's okay. Good girl.
Livestock brought to safety too. Alpacas, cows. The Warragamba Dam is continuing to spill tonight, fortunately at half the rate authorities predicted. But major rivers around Sydney are overflowing. Seven's Michael Usher took in the extraordinary sight from a helicopter.
Even in the few seconds since we arrived, the rain has really intensified and it is coming in sideways now, and you can see it getting very misty and strong outside. But have a look at the dam itself. Those 4 radial gates and the drum gate wide open, releasing all of that water into the system below.
The beach at Collaroy, almost impossible to get in the water safely here, but some gave it a crack, despite warnings about pollution. There's more rain to come. 500,000 people in New South Wales are under evacuation warnings and orders.
If you are subject to one of those evacuation orders, please get out.
Parts of the mid-north coast and Hunter regions bracing for the worst this evening. Heavy rainfall and damaging wind gusts expected there. Blake Johnson, 7 News.
Southeast Queensland is about to be smashed by another supercell storm. Joel Dry is in Brisbane tonight. Joel, this has put clean-up efforts on hold.
Yeah, Beck, and it will be quite the clean-up. I'm actually on the Sunshine Coast as we speak, an area that got absolutely smashed by storms last night. And you can see this paints a pretty good picture of what they dealt with. This is a fully laden semi-trailer that was simply pushed over by the ferocious winds. It wasn't just wind, it was hail and rain, a lot of it. Back in Brisbane, they had over 60 millimetres in a matter of minutes. That meant for a lot of people who have been flooded, they've had the water go out, they started the clean-up. Unfortunately, flash flooding has water back through their properties. The concern for storms was so great today, the Premier told parents to go and collect their children from school and take them home. The last thing we need in the southeast of Queensland is more wild weather. Unfortunately, in the distance, I can see lightning, I can hear the thunder. It's going to be another nervous night. Beck?
Joel Dry, thank you so much. Major Ukrainian cities have faced another night of hell as the Russian invasion enters its second week. Kiev was bombarded with missiles and Russia claims to have captured its first major city after an intense battle. But there's still fierce resistance.
Another night in Kiev. Another night under siege. Explosions shatter the darkness in the city centre. At least one blast near the train station. This reporter live on air.
That was close.
Vladimir Putin's tactics in Ukraine are not just war, but war crimes, according to the UK and a coalition of countries. And they've now referred Russia to the International Criminal Court.
In the use of the munitions that they have already been dropping on innocent civilians, Mr. Speaker, in my view, already fully qualifies as a war crime.
An investigation launched immediately. Ukraine's president called this attack on the eastern city of Kharkiv a war crime too. More than 20 civilians dead and scores injured, but Ukrainian forces are clinging to control.
Show this to those in Russia.
They won't surrender in Energodar, home to Europe's largest nuclear plant. Townsfolk rushing to form a human blockade when they heard Russian troops were approaching. But there are reports the enemy has seized its first major city, the strategic southern port of Kherson. US intelligence denies it's fallen. However, the mayor says Ukrainian troops have withdrawn and says of the Russians, "I've just asked them not to shoot people." Ukraine says its civilian death toll has now topped 2,000. The United Nations estimate is lower, 750. And for the first time, we've heard a figure for Russian casualties. 498 soldiers killed, 1,600 wounded. Some remain where they fell. This tank in Bucha, now a young man's tomb. Others have been captured. Here, a young Russian in tears as he's given a chance to call his mum. Not everyone back home supports Putin's war. More than 200 protesters arrested at a rally in St. Petersburg, among them a survivor of the siege of Leningrad in World War II. Her sign says, "Soldier, drop your weapon and be a true hero." Where the war goes from here may depend on the 64-kilometre column of Russian tanks stalled outside Kyiv with food and fuel shortages and possible sabotage from soldiers who don't want to advance. At all the approach roads into the city, they are getting ready to fight any assault. Here, volunteer soldiers build roadblocks and trenches ready for an attack from all directions. This construction worker, who says he put down the hammer and picked up a gun, will fight to the death.
We will be fight to the end. We will be fight as much as possible. In a coffin. They will go in a coffin.
So now they're waiting for the Russians to arrive. Right now, all the approach roads are empty. Normally, this highway would be bumper to bumper with traffic, rush hour. But they know that bumper to bumper tank convoy is slowly approaching. The wait is giving Ukrainians who want to flee more time to find a way out. 1 million gone already, now refugees in neighbouring countries.
Thank you that so many countries can hear us and support us. I hope all this violence and cruelness ends soon.
Those who've chosen to remain must queue for medicine and groceries. A battle now to survive and stay alive.
And Chief Correspondent Chris Reason joins us live from the defensive perimeter of Kiev. Good evening, Chris. The city was again hammered with missile attacks overnight.
Yeah, good evening to you, Beck. 4 massive explosions lit up the night sky in Kyiv, and one of those directed specifically at the city's central heating system, the old Soviet-era design system which provides heating across the city. The only effect of that, of course, would be to really make life harder for the elderly and the infirm. Look, it's now 1 week since those tanks rolled across the Ukraine borders. The Russian advance has been slow, but there is no doubting they are taking key gains. And among those overnight, confirmation that the southern city, a key city of Kherson, has fallen to the Russians. Another one, Mariupol, has been hammered by sustained shelling overnight. There are fears that hundreds of civilians have been killed in that assault. They're already calling it a humanitarian catastrophe. Beck?
Chris Reason reporting live. Thank you. Melbourne drivers are being warned the Ukraine war could push petrol prices up to $3 a litre. Chanel Velo joins us now. Chanel, this is a worst-case scenario.
It certainly is, but experts say if the situation in Ukraine keeps deteriorating, we could end up paying $3 at the Bowser. Right now, prices are sitting at around $2.05 across many suburbs. The RACV says the average price of unleaded is $1.95. It's been rising steadily all year, and now global oil prices have hit an 8-year high, adding another 9% overnight. That's a gain of more than 40% so far this year. The Ukraine war is disrupting supply, and that's pushing petrol prices right up.
If this continues, yes, we may get to $3 a litre. Hopefully, though, the conflict is contained, and so we don't see prices get quite that high. But the reality is that over the next few weeks, the next few months, the risk is certainly on the upside for petrol prices.
The tip from the RACV is that drivers should not be paying any more than $1.99 a litre. Beck?
Chanel Velo reporting. Thank you. Russian diplomats had to be evacuated from their embassy in Canberra after 2 suspicious packages were found outside the building. Hazmat crews were called when they found white powder in one of the parcels. Protesters continue to rally against the invasion of Ukraine outside the building. Cricket legend Rod Marsh has been flown to an Adelaide hospital while continuing the fight of his life. Mitch Cleary has developments. Mitch, good evening. He's been in an induced coma ever since he had a heart attack last week.
That's right, Beck. Marsh has been flown from Queensland to Adelaide, where he and his wife have lived for many years. The 74-year-old remains in a coma 7 days on from suffering a heart attack at a charity event alongside cricket icons in Bundaberg last week. Bundaberg Hospital says Marsh is in a critical but stable situation. The family of the wicket-keeping great is still playing a waiting game, saying they've been overwhelmed by the outpouring of support from around the globe. One of those is Australian Test captain Pat Cummins, saying today his team is rallying behind the Marsh family and had them firmly in their thoughts as they prepare to play Pakistan in a Test match starting tomorrow. Beck?
Thank you, Mitch. The man charged with kidnapping an 11-month-old baby in a car in Keysborough on Tuesday has failed to front court for the second time because of his fragile mental state. 46-year-old Dean Robertson allegedly stole a Toyota RAV4 with an 11-month-old boy inside. Both the child and car were found 3.5 hours later. The Frankston man was due to appear in the Magistrates Court yesterday but claimed he had COVID symptoms. Today, a custody officer said he refused to leave his Dandenong police station cell. The WA border has reopened for the first time in nearly 700 days, but the Premier won't rule out closing it again. Thousands of travellers headed west to be reunited with loved ones in Perth.
First-time hugs, tears of joy.
This is my mum.
And the introduction of new family members.
Dad, me, Ro.
The final state border falls.
These two just got married, and my husband, and I don't even know where he's gone.
He's gone to get our
just
luggage.
met him for the first time.
After 697 days, Australians were welcomed in Perth, where they were given 2 rapid antigen tests to take on day 1 and day 7. But with COVID cases on the rise in WA, the Premier warns further border closures can't be ruled out.
If another strain comes along that is deadly, or a different illness comes along or something of that nature, no government can guarantee that.
6 flights departed Melbourne for Perth this morning. Among the passengers, a bridesmaid who will now make her best friend's wedding.
We just planned that I wasn't going to be.
A young family moving west.
Finally, it's happening.
And many longing for their parents.
I miss my family so much. And I'm heading home.
It's been really hard. So, I lost my job and then I turned 30 and all these things happened and I couldn't share them with my parents.
Before COVID hit, Melbourne to Perth was the country's 6th busiest route. But during COVID, it fell to 56. More people were flying from Melbourne to Mildura. The number of Perth-bound flights will grow from 6 to 14 direct daily routes by Good Friday. Flights this week are up to $600 one way, but will become cheaper over the next couple of months.
Good morning.
How are you?
Now, all of Australia is finally reopened to the world again. Tegan Dolling, 7 News.
The AFL's making a big play to lure fans back into stadiums after 2 seasons of COVID chaos. It hopes to kickstart attendance with a round 1 festival of footy.
Gil McLachlan has made it his personal mission to get life back to normal for footy-starved fans.
Walk up, buy a ticket if you want, come with your family and friends, do whatever you want in the ground, obviously within rules.
The AFL boss appealing to supporters, still unsure about returning to the stands.
I'd encourage everyone that we actually have to get beyond our reluctance and take some steps back into living normally.
No crowd caps are a recipe for a round 1 record.
The record ever is 400,000 people and we hope to break that.
But 7 News understands there's no guarantee the state government will allow 100% capacity all season, particularly during winter. And 7 News can show the AFL's official TV commercial. The soundtrack is Van Halen's Jump. The AFL wants to bring back fan rituals to the footy. Famously media shy, even Buddy Franklin got involved.
Lance Buddy Franklin lines up to kick his 1,000th goal. Oh, sorry. Buddy Franklin!
Oh, brilliant! Tom Brown, 7 News.
That looks pretty good. Tim Watson, the AFL boss, has also apologised today.
Yes, Becky's had a busy day. He said sorry to the umpires, but backed away from a blanket ban on coaches making public comments about decisions. We'll have that for you in sport. Plus, a triumphant return for Sam Doherty on the comeback trail after his cancer battle. Hear exclusively from AFL legend Kevin Sheedy on who he thinks can rejoin the coaching ranks, and Beck will cross live inside Marvel Stadium ahead of tonight's Amy Series opener. I'll see you again soon.
Look forward to that. Thank you very much, Tim. Victoria is set to pay survivors of the stolen generation $100,000 each. Details next on 7 News. Also tonight, a little girl and her mum pulled from a burning house by a shy hero. Meet the faces of the Good Friday appeal. They're defying the odds to help other sick kids. And later, Victoria's tiny home boom in the face of soaring property prices. A hero neighbour has saved a mother and toddler from their burning South Melbourne home. The fire erupted late yesterday in the Coventry Street house. Neighbours climbed up to the top floor window to help the woman and child escape. They're in hospital. The cause of the fire is not suspicious. The Andrews government will pay members of Victoria's stolen generation $100,000. Indigenous leaders say it's a landmark moment, but money won't make up for what they went through. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander viewers are warned the following story may contain images of deceased people.
Eva Jo Edwards was stolen from her family at the age of 5.
I remember the day, where I was, what happened, their trip from Swanhill to Melbourne, and stays with you forever.
She spent the next 13 years in institutions.
Impacted on my life immensely. You know, the changes, the disconnectedness, all those things that come with not being raised with your family.
To take away from them language and cultural practice, to take away from them family, to take away from them country, is a shameful, shameful thing.
A new $155 million reparations package will include a $100,000 payment for every Aboriginal Victorian who was stolen before 1977. 1,200 people will be eligible.
We die younger, we're more involved with the justice system, we have greater poverty and many other things worse than the rest of the Aboriginal community.
More than 400 members of the stolen generation and their families were consulted on the package, which includes access to healing programs.
There are supports, there are healing processes. We need to make sure healing support, culturally appropriate responses are put in place.
The package also includes an apology from the state government in a letter, an email, over the phone or in person. The Premier says he's willing to deliver those apologies himself if that's what members of the stolen generation want.
Affords us a dignity and a validation that has been denied until now.
Chanel Vella, 7 News.
One of Australia's longest-running television shows, Neighbours, has been axed. Production company Fremantle made the announcement late this afternoon after being unable to secure a deal with a UK broadcaster. The show has produced some of Australia's biggest stars, including Kylie Minogue, Margot Robbie and Delta Goodrem. The final episode will be filmed in June to air in September. The Royal Children's Hospital Good Friday appeal is officially underway with 2 brave faces front and centre. The hospital hopes to raise a record amount this year with a focus on their fight against childhood leukaemia.
8-year-old Isla McGann is making up for lost years. 5 of them spent fighting acute lymphoblastic leukaemia at the Royal Children's Hospital.
They have for sure saved her life, and obviously more than once.
Tiny dynamo Alex Wyatt also in remission after developing the same vicious blood cancer.
There's not really words to say how grateful we are. We just,
These 2 brave little survivors are this year's faces of the Good Friday appeal, thrusting acute lymphoblastic leukaemia into the spotlight.
Each year in Australia, more than 200 children under the age of 15 are diagnosed with the same condition.
We rely on the Good Friday appeal to help every aspect of the child's cancer journey, from diagnosis through their therapy and out beyond into survivorship.
Over the past 91 years, the Good Friday appeal has raised $399 million. It's been money well spent.
The music therapist, the play therapist, art therapy, he likes going to hospital, which is incredible.
Thriving 3-year-old Alex happy to be back, stealing the limelight at today's official launch.
Oh, it's working. You fixed it. Thank you, buddy.
The McGann family hoping the entire community will rally to help fund better treatments and ultimately a cure.
I'm strong, could fight anything.
Oh, they were just gorgeous. It was a pleasure to meet them this morning. Well, Jane Bunn has the latest weather now. Jane, there is rain on the way.
Beck, there is indeed. Now, it's significant for us, but much less than they've experienced up north. As the eastern situation continues, our rain will come from this northwest cloud band, the remains of Cyclone Annika producing widespread rain for us. Today had barely a cloud in the sky. Warm and humid, we reached a top of 30.5, low 30s in most suburbs. We'll have high cloud tomorrow. That's the first sign of approaching rain. I'll show you when the rain will begin after Sport, Beck.
OK, great. Thank you very much, Jane. Well, a major graffiti blitz is underway tonight. Up next, the army out to clean up our streets. Also ahead, a family torn apart by a street race in Melbourne's southeast. One sister gone forever, another living with guilt. Life on the line, a close call for a driver in Glen Iris. And Melbourne makes a fashion statement, stepping out after the pandemic. A car has been hit by a train at a level crossing in Melbourne's southeast. Christy Cooper is at Glen Iris. Christy, this was a very close call for the driver.
Beck, it's incredible considering what's happened here that no one was seriously injured. A woman was inside this black Honda when it became stuck on the tracks in heavy traffic just after midday. There'd been another car accident further up High Street which was causing traffic to bank up. You can see the back of the car is badly damaged. Witnesses say that part of the vehicle was over the tracks when the train smashed into it, spinning it around. The female driver of the car was taken to hospital for observation, but she's managed to escape serious injury. Police say no one was on board the train was injured. It did, however, cause commuter chaos. Trains on the Glen Waverley line were suspended and replaced by buses. That train line, however, is back up and running now, Beck.
Christy Cooper, thank you. A P-plater has been spared jail despite killing her younger sister in a crash in Rowville. Michaela Wells pleaded guilty to making a fatal mistake behind the wheel, but the judge showed mercy.
Happy birthday to you.
Michaela Wells sings happy birthday to her sister at the cemetery, knowing she was responsible for her death. In 2019, 17-year-old Nikita Lee Wells was in the back seat of her big sister's car when P-plater Michaela swerved across 2 lanes of traffic into a bus lane. The manoeuvre placed the siblings in the path of 2 cars that were drag racing. The 3-car smash in Rowville splitting the sister's vehicle in half. Today, a tearful Ms Wells was spared a jail term by a judge who acknowledged her anguish.
You were deeply traumatised and grief-stricken that it was your driving that caused your sister's death. Prison would simply be too much.
Ms Wells was instead handed a 2-year community corrections order.
Michaela Wells won't serve any time in jail, but she will have a conviction recorded against her name. The judge accepted that would make it hard for her to get a job as a nurse, but said her offending was too serious to avoid one.
This was one mistake, and it does not or ought not define who you are or what you can contribute into the future.
A split-second decision, now a lifetime of grief. Estelle Greepink, 7 News.
It's puzzled historians for centuries, but now one of the mysteries of Stonehenge may have been solved. New research suggests the ancient stone circle was used as a giant solar calendar to help people keep track of time. It's believed each of the 30 large stones represented a day of the month. Other stones possibly marked off weeks. The significance of the layout can be seen during the winter and summer solstices when the sun is framed by these same stones. A massive cleaning blitz has been launched in the city to remove ugly and illegal graffiti. Council wants visitors to be welcomed with a clean and sparkling city as new data reveals a big jump in foot traffic.
They're the Rapid Response Clean Team embarking on the biggest effort to clean up the city since 2006.
So we're really focused on taggers and what I would call destructive, antisocial graffiti.
There is a big difference between street art and tagging, and I think tagging just definitely needs to be cleaned up.
Melbourne's Lord Mayor out to prove she's serious about getting the job done. Rolling out the red carpet for visitors with hopeful signs the city is coming back to life.
This morning, for example, at key transport hubs like Southern Cross Station, we saw almost a 100% increase in foot traffic from the same day last week.
Illegal tagging was one of the few crimes that increased during lockdown, more than doubling in 2021. A dedicated team of police officers has been assembled to stop the vandals.
Depending on the type of offence, it ranges right up to a $44,000 fine
and 2 years imprisonment.
Many of Melbourne's laneways are famous for their graffiti, attracting some of the city's greatest artists. Council says laneways like this one will be left alone by the Clean team. Instead, they'll be fiercely protected.
This program in no way is targeted to our amazing street artists. In fact, we're trying to support them more through programs like Flash Forward.
The Blitz starts on Sunday to coincide with Clean Up Australia Day. Christy Cooper, 7 News.
A catwalk has replaced the aisles at Queen Vic Market. It's lights, camera action tonight for Melbourne Fashion Festival's opening gala runway. The festival has a different look this year. The theme is Welcome to the Neighbourhood, inspired by the past 2 years when the only place Melburnians could show off their threads was on the street. Tonight is the first of 7 runways across the 10-day festival. Police are stepping up the hunt for a man wanted over the sexual assault of a schoolboy in Balaclava. Details next. Plus, why a pilot accused of killing 2 missing campers is suing Jetstar from behind bars. A multi-million-dollar lifeline for a Bayside landmark. And how tiny houses are making a big impression as property prices go through the roof. The Jetstar pilot accused of killing 2 missing campers has launched court action against his old employer. Greg Lynn is taking action in the Fair Work Commission while behind bars claiming unfair dismissal. He says the budget airline was wrong to sack him after he was charged with 2 counts of murder. Police allege he killed Russell Hill and Carol Clay in the High Country. Police are stepping up their hunt for a sex predator wanted over an attack in Balaclava. This is the man detectives are looking for. He's accused of sexually assaulting a boy as he walked home from school on Carlisle Street. The attack happened on Friday, February 4, and police are worried the man could strike again. Taking a look at finance now, the ASX 200 has closed up 34 points. On the markets, resource stocks performed well due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, while both supermarket giants ended the day down. 1 Aussie dollar is currently buying 73 US cents. Well, many Victorians are turning to smaller homes in the face of soaring property prices. Melbourne is hosting its first Tiny House Expo to meet increasing demand for affordable housing.
It's a big collection of the very latest, littlest homes.
You can't build them fast enough.
Demand for tiny houses and alternative dwellings has exploded, with buyers craving a simpler, more affordable lifestyle.
This one's at the show for sale at $156,000.
Homes like these are being snapped up by divorcees, empty nesters, first home buyers and couples.
Yeah, we've had a few families living in this model in particular.
300 Australian tiny home builders are struggling to cope with demand, with buyers spoilt for choice. This cute gypsy wagon is just $30,000, a luxury dome home $17,000. With the cost of living skyrocketing, going off the grid has never been more appealing.
Zero power bills, nothing.
Elle Payton culled 90% of her belongings and lives virtually for free. Her housework is done in minutes. The only issue is navigating council parking laws.
It is quite challenging. You do have to get comfortable with uncertainty.
What is certain is the tiny home movement is becoming mainstream, and it's here to stay. The 3-day expo starts tomorrow with around 15,000 visitors expected, many of whom will no doubt wonder whether they too can give up their conventional lives and live like this.
I love it. It's an amazing lifestyle.
Jackie Quist, 7 News.
Construction crews have moved in to begin building the new $53 million St Kilda Pier. Major works will begin on Monday, the 14th of March, with locals warned to brace for disruptions. Surrounding businesses remain opened, but the penguin viewing platform will remain closed until 2024. It's a long time to wait for those penguins. Tim Watson, he'll probably be happy about it. Tim Watson here with Sport Tim, the Amy series. This is exciting. It's about to begin.
Beck, it's getting serious now. We'll cross live to Marvel Stadium ahead of tonight's Blues Demons hit out. Also, see how Sam Docherty went in his footy comeback as a Carlton legend piles on the pressure for the season ahead. Why the AFL boss is apologising over one of footy's hottest pre-season topics. A concussion breakthrough for footy players, exclusive details ahead, and COVID runs through the Aussie camp in Pakistan. Welcome back. It's a full dress rehearsal tonight for Carlton and reigning premiers Melbourne as the build-up to round one ramps up. Andrew McCormack is live inside Marvel Stadium. And Andrew, Michael Voss's new game plan is going to be put under the microscope tonight.
Well, Tim, balance is the key word coming out of the Blues camp. Michael Voss has put a heavy focus on defence this summer. Previously, under recent regimes at the Blues, their defensive pressure has been some of the worst in the competition, so they're looking to turn that around under the new regime in Michael Voss. The Demons, they're missing just 5 players from that premiership team of last year. They were razor sharp against North last week, so Michael Voss in his new game plan is going to get a good test ahead of the season proper tonight.
Certainly our defence is an important part of the way you want to score if you can turn the ball over in your front half. And that integrity, you've got to win a game of footy by keeping the opposition to a low score. So it's a balanced approach to all 3 phases.
I think we have high expectations on ourselves. Even last year I feel like we weren't really rated all year, even when we were on top of the ladder. It was always sort of like we were doing it out of luck or had a great run. So that's fine, that's external noise. We've come back hungrier than ever.
Now earlier today, Princes Park, an inspirational comeback, a great story. Sam Doherty, just 3 months after finishing his latest bout of chemo from a second bout of testicular cancer, he had 38 disposals in his comeback playing for Carlton's VFL side. Carlton says it's probably a bit too early for round one, but he'll definitely play in the early rounds of the season. So great to see Sam Doherty back. And just quickly, the Bulldogs, Jamari Ugle-Hagan has been left out of their side to play the Lions tomorrow night here at Marvel Stadium. So an interesting selection choice from Luke Beveridge and the number 1 pick. Tim?
Thanks, Macca. Kevin Sheedy has revealed former Bombers skipper James Hird is keen to be an AFL coach once again. The coaching legend himself going back to his roots ahead of a blockbuster season opening clash.
Back wearing yellow and black, Kevin Sheedy has endorsed a return for a red and black favourite son.
Herb will be really thinking about, will I go? And if he's going to go, he's got to go now. He's got to make his opportunity now.
6 years after Hird was removed as Essendon coach, he's joined GWS as a part-time leadership advisor that could open the door for a senior coaching job.
Have you spoken to him? Is it something
I have, yep.
Is it something he's interested in?
I believe so. I'll leave it at that.
Sheedy joining legend Anthony Koutoufides and star recruit Adam Chera to launch tickets for the Virgin Australia fan flight that will jet fans in from Sydney for the Tigers-Blues clash in front of more than 80,000.
I haven't played in front of that many numbers before, so really just can't wait to get out there and experience that and play in front of the Navy Blue.
Chera now eyeing a shift as a full-time centre bounce midfielder.
I think I'll be predominantly inside and we'll all share the load in there, and at the moment, I'm the fittest as I've ever been, strongest as I've ever been, and most prepared going into a season.
Chera will kickstart the Blues season at the MCG in 14 days, looking to emulate what this man did 27 years ago and lift the Blues' next piece of silverware.
He's going to help out Walshy, Cripper and these sort of players who need the help, and he's going to add some more ammunition to our midfield as well.
Mitch Cleary, 7 News.
AFL boss Gillon McLachlan has apologised for the abuse umpires have endured in recent years. But McLachlan has clarified coaches are still able to comment on umpiring decisions.
For the fact that I think it's got away from us. People can talk about the game, talk about things in a respectful way, but what they can't do is on-field abuse and coaches and others abuse of umpires off-field.
Meantime, Richmond has confirmed Kane Lambert will meet with a hip surgeon next week, but are optimistic he can still play a role in the first half of the season. For the first time, landmark technology is allowing players to see their brain damage before they die. Former Bulldog and Bomber Alan Stoneham has received his confronting results, which previously could only be identified in an autopsy.
This is the first time Alan Stoneham has seen the results of his landmark brain scan.
Well, it just makes you a little bit relieved, not so much relieved because I don't know what's going to happen, but I get an understanding of what's happening in the head.
Famously, King hit at Princes Park.
Essendon player got rolled there.
Stoneham has struggled to prove his symptoms.
I know my mates will say, look, you're fine. Ask my wife, I'm not fine.
This UK report changes that. Breaking his brain down section by section, researchers found abnormalities in 38 parts.
My balance is pretty ordinary. Memories, it struggles at times, and I suffer from optical migraines, which basically blacks out my eyes.
Since 2016, 19 AFL players have retired from brain damage.
It's going to only help them in the future. You know, I don't want anyone else to go through what I'm going through. The AFL have got to stand up and start looking after us a bit more.
Concussion expert Peter Jess has written to the AFL asking for a royal commission, saying the league has commissioned concussion reports on former players like Allen, but hasn't acted on the findings.
It is a massive cover-up.
That's a long-term stuff, Tom. That's over many years, and that'll be a long time before we get anything substantive out of that.
And important Essendon recruit Jake Kelly won't play this weekend. It's not on any injury reports, but 7 News has learned today Kelly suffered a concussion during last Wednesday's practice game. There's no obvious incident. He played out most of the game. It's easy to worry for Kelly. He had a separate delayed concussion last August and was concussed in a separate incident with Patrick Dangerfield, where Kelly took at least a week to recover, Tim.
Thanks, Tom. COVID scares and spying accusations have disrupted Australia's preparations for the first test in Pakistan. The Aussies haven't had the services of spin coach Fawad Ahmed, who's in COVID isolation. Tight security in Rawalpindi has forced both sides to train in close proximity. The first test begins tomorrow. And in breaking news, athletes from Russia and Belarus have been banned now from competing in the Winter Paralympics in Beijing. But the Aussies will be there, and we have a remarkable story about a former Giants Academy player chasing Olympic gold. Josh Hanlon had both legs amputated after a serious bacterial infection and now has the need for speed competing in sit skiing.
Jumped straight into it and loved it. Loved the thrill of going quick, doing dangerous things, so yeah, it's fun.
The opening ceremony is live on 7 tomorrow night. And Beck, just quickly before I go, Seven's Olympic and Paralympic coverage from the Tokyo Games was awarded the best coverage of a sporting event at the Sport Australia Media Awards last night. I've got to say, it was brilliant.
It was absolutely brilliant. More to come, I suspect. Thank you very much, Tim. Well, Jane is next with the forecast. Jane, we all want to know, when does this rain begin?
Well, Beck, we will remain dry all through the day tomorrow. Another warm and humid one. Then the rain begins. The full details are next.
Tonight on the latest from 7 News, weather emergencies along the east coast, the new forecast for flooded communities between Sydney and Brisbane. The first major Ukrainian city falls to Russia. And finally, a feel-good story, not a dry eye in the house, emotional reunions at Perth Airport. Join me tonight for the latest from 7 News.
Hello again. We have one more day of warm and dry weather in Melbourne. Then rain arrives and it may be heavy. There was barely a cloud in the sky today. After a low of 17 and a half, it quickly jumped up. But we didn't reach a top of 30 and a half in the city until 6 p.m. It was a short time ago. Today is Victoria's quiet day, while New South Wales continues to be drenched in rain. Now, some of that is coming around the corner into East Gippsland. Otherwise, lots of sunshine out there, warm and humid. There is some wispy high cloud coming into the southwest of the state. That is ahead of what will be Victoria's next significant weather. The remains of Cyclone Annika that is pouring into a northwest cloud band as driven by a deep low over the Bight. The east coast rain will ease as their low dissipates and our rain begins. The southwest sees it first. It develops tomorrow afternoon. It spreads to the Wimmera and western Melbourne at night, turning heavy in southwest Victoria. It turns heavy in Melbourne and central parts of the state on Saturday morning, as all of this gradually moves eastwards. The heavy rain is over the east of the state on Saturday afternoon and eases in the evening. On Sunday, there's showery weather to follow for much of the south. It is most widespread in Gippsland. Now, all up, we're looking at southern and eastern Victoria seeing 20 to 50 millimetres of rain, and this does include Melbourne. Locally higher totals, especially on the ranges, and these amounts are significant for us, but nothing like the huge falls up north, so we won't see the flooding either. The Mallee has the least from this one due to the path of the low. Around the nation tomorrow, no more widespread rain on the east coast. Instead, hit and miss showers and thunderstorms, so there's locally heavy rain in Sydney and Brisbane. To Victoria, warm and sunny with thickening high cloud in humid air. Those ahead of areas of rain with local thunderstorms progressing across the southwest in the afternoon, extending to the Wimmera and south central parts at night. So closer in, we are all warm and dry all through the day, no wet weather. Then it changes tomorrow night. The rain hits Geelong first in the early evening and it begins in the rest of the Melbourne area later at night. The city has lots of sunshine with thickening high cloud, a humid top of 30. Rain shouldn't begin until after 9 p.m. Then early on Saturday it turns heavy. The heavy rain is most likely between around 3 a.m. and 8 a.m. on Saturday, and that's when we're looking at 15 to 50 millimetres across the Melbourne area. Now, once that breaks during the morning, then we go into showery weather. So it'll rain for a minute, then it'll be dry for a while, rain, dry, and keep going like that. And that happens all through the weekend. There's showers to follow on Tuesday, then some very pleasant autumn days later next week. We're warm and dry during the day tomorrow, top of 30. Rain slowly begins at night. It's heavy early Saturday, Beck.
OK, thank you very much, Jane. Appreciate it. And that is 7 News. We'll have updates throughout the evening for now from the 7 News team. Good night.